With the tagline "Almost Magic," the Elf Emitt sounds promising. According to the website, it can be used to improve focus, sleep, meditation, and learning processes while combating stress by combining ancient traditions and modern technology. The Elf Emitt draws upon the medical knowledge of the frequencies at which our brain works in different states of mind and encourages them to function at those exact frequencies. This is basically what the sites read. So it encourages the states of mind to work in different frequencies? Well, I'm not so sure about that. So generally, it is correct that if we measure brain waves, for example, with electroencephalography, we find different types of waves and different frequencies. For example, when we are awake and alert, beta waves in the range of 13 to 30 Hz dominate. When we get drowsy, more and more alpha waves in the ranges of 8 to 13 Hz appear. The technique the EE uses is called Pulsed Electromagnetic Field Therapy, PEMT. This means the Elf Emitt creates a small, tiny magnetic field which sends out electromagnetic waves at certain frequencies. And these frequencies are supposed to encourage the brain to work at similar frequencies. This is supposed to happen because of something called the frequency following response. The Elf Emitt team seems to think that if we send waves at certain frequencies to the brain, it will produce waves at similar frequencies. Thus, if we induce frequencies that are associated with being awake, we will be awake, and so on. However, the frequency following response has almost nothing to do with the brain as an organism completely synchronizing its brainwave to input signal frequencies with similar brain frequencies. The frequency following response describes the encoding of a complex auditory stimulus, for example, speech sounds like my voice or tones, in a very specific area of the brain, which is called the brainstem. The frequency following response is used to test what changes in the brain when our hearing is impaired. So the scientific explanation does not apply to the Elf Emitt's super simple, low frequency, non-hearable signals, but only to complex auditory signals like music. Further, the brainstem is not even in the brain region the Elf Emitt team claims to stimulate. Rather, the Elf Emitt is the only wearable that directly stimulates the cerebellum, is what they say. So, since the Elf Emitt is supposedly stimulating the cerebellum, it has even less to do with the frequency following response, which is originating from the brainstem. They want to stimulate the cerebellum because they say it controls our body functions and is a link between our brains and the rest of the body. This is correct in the sense that the cerebellum's main function is motor control, which means body movements, like hand movements, leg movements, and so on. However, the Elf Emitt is not aiming to change the precision of your arm movements, but rather wants to change your entire mental state. This is a higher order mental process, and there is a completely different region in the brain which is consistently associated with almost exclusively higher order function. This is the prefrontal cortex, the frontal lobe here, which is also, as you can imagine, on the opposite side of where you wear the Elf Emitt. So they should not even stimulate the cerebellum in the first place. but rather a prefrontal cortex, at least for a better chance at success. Luckily enough, although they claim the Elf Emitt stimulates the cerebellum, it really doesn't. As can be seen from many advertisements on the websites, the Elf Emitt is worn slightly above the Indian, which is the little bulge in the back of your skull. The Indian has another name, external occipital protuberance. The name already gives away where it is located. Not over the cerebellum, but over the occipital lobe of the cerebrum. The occipital lobe is almost exclusively responsible for vision, and the Indian lies directly over the primary visual cortex. This is exactly also the reason why locations around the Indian are used by researchers in combination with the similar but vastly more powerful transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, to make people see small light flashes. So the most probable thing the Elf Emitt does, if it does anything, is stimulating the primary visual cortex. But even the Elf Emitt stimulating the visual cortex is extremely unlikely, as its power is way too low. Not even the powerful transcranial magnetic stimulation can stimulate areas that are deeper than 5 centimeters within the brain, despite typical peak coil currents in the range of several kiloamps and discharge voltages of up to a few kilovolts. The Elf Emitt's power is limited to around 1 microvolt because it relies on the mobile phone's output. This is a gigantic difference in terms of signal strength. The Elf Emitt produces magnetic fields of the magnitude of 220 microtesla, which is more than enough to make an impact on the body, especially the cerebellum, as can be read on the EE website. Likely, that's just not enough power. Just compare this with the 1 Tesla a TMS pulse usually produces. The Elf Emitt is about 10,000 times weaker. Some people say they get headaches from using the Elf Emitt, and this as a reason to claim that the Elf Emitt is at least changing something in the brain. However, the brain cannot feel pain, so the headache most likely comes from micro muscle movements in the skin right below the Elf Emitt. But even if the Elf Emitt stimulated the correct area with enough strength to have the desired effect on the brain, which would be brain wave frequency changes, as the Elf Emitt claims they do, we still wouldn't know whether this does anything, because scientists are not even sure that brainwaves cause anything. Brainwaves might be just a simple byproduct of our cognitive processes. There is some evidence for the former, but we are far from being sure yet. So all in all, this means that there is zero scientific basis for why the Elf Emitt should function in the way it was advertised. And there are 3 reasons. First, they use the wrong signal, and this signal is also much too weak. Second, they stimulate the wrong brain region. Third, we don't know whether brainwaves actually cause anything. The people who currently claim the Elf Emitt works are probably falling for a placebo effect. They think the Elf Emitt works, and they feel alleviation of their symptoms, because they want the Elf Emitt to work. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because the relaxing or concentrating effect of using the Elf Emitt is still real. It's just not because of the device itself, but rather because of the hopes and beliefs you attach to using it. So thank you very much for watching this video. You can find the full article with, of course, all the sources and verifications below in the description. Thank you very much. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them at any time.